Welcome back everyone. I have never really done a, CarPlay versus Android Auto video before, and I haven't really mentioned and talked about Android Auto or CarPlay in a long time. But Android Auto got a really big update recently, and I've been seeing a lot of other creators talking about and comparing these two, so I figured I might as well give my 2 cents within it as well. Now personally, on an everyday basis, whenever I actually do drive, I typically use CarPlay. There was a brief period where I was using an Android phone for a little bit, and I typically would use Android Auto at that moment, but as of right now, CarPlay is my main go-to, and it's the main, OS that I use when I actually go ahead and drive. Now, I will tell you, for a lot of the functionality, there is so much similarity, and personally, I don't necessarily think for my personal use, I would go from using CarPlay to Android Auto, whether I was using an iPhone or Android. I think both of them have their pros and cons, and for the things that I typically do, they work perfectly fine on both sides. Now, for CarPlay, for example, one of the biggest features and the main reasons why I like CarPlay right now is typically because of that split view. Now, from what I've heard, Android Auto just got this update too, and apparently there is a split view option for Android Auto, which is really cool. But personally, I like being able to see my maps on one side and the song I'm listening to on the other, and that's really all I do for CarPlay. I just load up Google Maps and I load up the songs that I'm listening to, and that's it. If I'm not going on long distance rides where I'm using Google Maps, I don't even plug my phone in to use CarPlay, and my car does not support wireless CarPlay, so I typically would just do it if I'm going long distances. And because of that, I like being able to see the music that I'm listening to at the same time. Luckily for us though, Android Auto should have gotten this update by now where you have split view, but also another big thing is something like Android Auto, you have a lot of the same applications across the board. Personally, for me, I like using Google Maps. Even on CarPlay, I stick with Google Maps more than Apple Maps, so both of these support it. And I have heard, I don't know if this is true, I've had heard the integration with Google Maps within Android Auto is a little bit more complete in a way, so that may be something that if you're interested in, you have that option too, which I think is really cool. Now, between both, a lot of people like, mentioning about, phone calls and messaging and those types of things. Personally, I don't really do any of that within CarPlay or Android Auto. I don't have any of my messages read. I don't really take any phone calls when I'm driving. So typically, if that's the case, I will literally, like I said, I will literally just have the, maps and the, Spotify or something open on the side where I can listen to the music right there. Now, in terms of the UI and the way everything looks, I think both of them are very, very similar in their own sense. And honestly, I don't really mess around or even care about the way it looks as long as it functions properly. And in my experience from both sides, because I've been using CarPlay more, I've had probably more issues with it than Android Auto. But I will say, if I use Android Auto, and from a lot of the consensus that I've been getting across the board, it does seem like CarPlay is the more stable version of software than Android Auto. And by stable, that may mean random glitches not happening, maybe some UI, elements maybe moving around a little bit, some things like that. I don't necessarily think it's like, the Google Maps will take you to a wrong spot or anything like that. But from the consensus that I've been reading, just because, I have to get the Android Auto side of things too, that may be something you may want to consider. But personally, I've heard really good things about both. And because I use CarPlay, I've had more issues with it more so than Android Auto. But I will say between both, very, very similar. Now, like I mentioned with the voice assistant option, this is another thing that a lot of people have been talking about between both as well. But like I mentioned, I typically don't use voice assistants on either one of these on my device. And that's mostly because my microphone within my car is broken, so I can't even speak or talk with the built-in microphone. I always have to take it on speaker on my phone. But if you're somebody who actually wanted to go ahead and utilize that, well, you will have a good, experience on both. It's really just Google Assistant versus, Siri. And from what I've heard, Siri really isn't at its top tier. And it seems like Google Assistant is the better option here as well. So that's something what I've heard. I haven't had too much experience on either one. But what I will tell you is, if I had to choose between CarPlay and Android Auto, I will say CarPlay is my go-to. Like how I mentioned in the beginning of this video, that's just kind of how it kind of seems to me. I don't necessarily think though it's end-all be-all. I don't think you have to go down that route of, switching to CarPlay or Android Auto, depending on your use case. If you use Android Auto and you're perfectly okay with it, then that's perfectly fine. That's more than good enough to get you from point A to point B. I don't think anybody's expecting to play games or anything like that when they're driving. So as long as you have what you need, then you should be okay. So personally, that's kind of something that I've been experiencing with. I think as of right now, CarPlay is my go-to, but Android Auto also has a lot of features. And now that Android Auto is starting to get picked up a little bit and they're actually kind of improving in that area, I think that's a really cool thing as well. So ultimately when it comes down to it, both of them are great. Both of them have their pros and cons. I'm probably going to stick with CarPlay, but there's also a lot of capability within Android Auto as well. So that kind of covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.